State Hospital was rebuilt in 1974, but there is still major controversy over the care its patients receive. There have been a number of deaths at Bridgewater in the past year, 3 of them suicides, and questions are continually being raised about how different it really is between then and now.
The film, although it's 20 years old, essentially shows how inmates held at Bridgewater are treated, or were treated then. And it would seem that although the bricks and mortar may have changed somewhat, that from what I read in the papers, that probably they're not treated much better today than they were 20 years ago.
Well, I think that Bridgewater has improved dramatically since the days that Fred Wiseman was making his film. People, I think, have the impression that patients are still housed in that same old building. The fact is that it was destroyed many years ago.
5 patients have died in this facility under circumstances that appear questionable since November of 1986.
I was very disturbed by the number of unusual deaths. I don't have a full report yet on what happened in each and every instance, but it's pretty clear that there are problems there. I don't think we're in a crisis, but I think we have problems in that facility.
This is still a correctional facility. It's a correctional facility by statute and by operation, and it's still taking care of individuals who are mentally ill and who are not accused or convicted of crimes, which comprise about 30% of the patient population. To me, that's barbaric. The correctional institutions by nature are geared towards providing security. They're not geared towards treatment. And I would have thought that we have long since passed the time where mental illness was in effect a crime and you could be placed in prison for being mentally ill.
Having had a real serious look at this during the last several months because of the suicides and the deaths at Bridgewater, we have concluded in the Dukakis administration that the place really needs to have both a high level of security and a very major clinical component as well. The second we really don't have at this point.
You walk in, and it's like a prison, only it's all on one level. There's a double perimeter fence around the top with razor wire. It's staffed by men in blue uniforms. It looks just like a prison. 8 of the seclusion rooms are so-called strip cells, where there's no toilet facility, simply a hole in the floor. And it's really, quite frankly, horrifying.
You go to correctional facilities if you've broken the law. Being mentally ill isn't breaking the law. And if you're mentally ill and assaultive and violent, you may need a secure treatment program, but it ought to be a secure treatment program that's operated by the mental health system and not by the criminal justice system. And that's precisely one of the key points in our plan.
We hoped that people would take into account the possibility, although there's no certainty in it, that if the film had been shown, that there might have been even more accelerated change at Bridgewater than there was, and that some of this harsh treatment or neglect, really, wouldn't have continued. The censoring of Titicut Follies or any other film prevents people in a democracy from access to information which they might like to have in order to make up their minds about what kind of society they want to live in. It's as simple as that.
When we come back, we'll be joined live by filmmaker Frederick Wiseman and by a specialist on the issues raised in this controversy, Dr. Thomas Goodheil, professor of psychiatry at Harvard University.
It's the Subaru year-end clearance, the greatest Subaru deals in Subaru history.
Filmmaking some 20 years ago, with Titicut Follies being his first major film. Since then, Mr. Wiseman has made many other award-winning documentaries which, like Titicut Follies, focus on the human condition. Mr. Wiseman joins us now from CFCF Television in Montreal. Also with us from Ludlow, Vermont, is psychiatrist Dr. Thomas Goodheil of the Harvard Medical School. Dr. Goodheil is also co-director of the program on psychiatry and the law at Massachusetts General Hospital. This afternoon, Mr. Wiseman, you and I talked by phone, and you expressed your extreme displeasure over the fact that we were using excerpts of your film in our broadcast tonight. I told you if you came on as a guest this evening, you would be afforded an opportunity to explain why you're so unhappy about it. The floor is yours.
Right. Well, I appreciate having a chance to explain. I'm unhappy about it because I'm under an injunction that prevents the showing of the film except to limited audiences, which means that it can't be shown on television. And also, there's a new court case, which I hope will result in the film being freed. And I didn't want to have anything to do with any showing of even a portion of the film, because I thought there might be a perception that I had something to do with your obtaining the film when I had absolutely nothing to do with it. I understand why you want to show it, but I don't believe it's in my interest that any portion of the film be shown unless the whole film can be shown.
Explain to me why that is, because after 20 years now, one would think that, and for the record, not only did you have nothing to do with our obtaining the film, but when I say that we had a heated exchange this afternoon, I don't think I'm misstating the case. You were most unhappy, expressed it in absolutely unambiguous terms to me. If you're prepared to set it aside right now, I would like very much to talk about the privacy issue.
Yes, I'm ready to talk about the privacy issue.
Why can you not understand that the state of Massachusetts would be concerned about the privacy not only of the individuals that you showed, but also members of their family, and why could you not take them up on their offer to say, go ahead and show the film, as long as you not include segments in which the faces of the individuals being mistreated are recognizable?
Well, I think it's impossible to make any film in which you can't see people's faces, just as you wouldn't have much of a broadcast tonight unless you could see the faces of the participants. So when I make a documentary movie, I think people's character, their emotions, their feelings are registered in their faces. I think the real issue in the Titicut Follies case is that the state was embarrassed by the kind of place that Bridgewater was when I made the film, and apparently some of the same problems continue to this day. It seems to me that the public has a legitimate interest in knowing how its institutions are run, and unless films can be made about public tax-supported institutions, the public is being deprived of important information it needs in order to make the kind of decisions that make a democracy work.
I want to turn to Dr. Gutheil in just 1 second, but let me ask you one last question before we turn this into more of a dialogue or more of a conversation, including Dr. Gutheil. You're an attorney. When you went in to make that film, you were an attorney. It seems to me one of the most fundamental things would be to get signed releases, if not from the patients, then from their families. Why didn't you do that?
Well, in fact, I did get some signed releases, but I didn't get them from everybody. I thought the agreement that I went into Bridgewater meant that the decision as to whether pictures could be taken of inmates was being made by the superintendent or a representative of his staff. Bridgewater is not the kind of place you parachute into in the middle of the night and covertly take pictures. I was always accompanied by a guard who was asked to be with me by the superintendent and was the agent of the superintendent. And I assumed that if anybody had any objections to pictures being taken, and if the superintendent or his agent thought that the people weren't competent, they would have expressed those objections. They never did. The only time the objections came up was after the film was finished and it was about to be shown at the New York Film Festival, and some reviews appeared in the national press which were critical of the institution. And then people began to get embarrassed.
Right.
But prior to that time, nobody objected.
Let me turn now to Dr. Gutheil and raise a question about the privacy issue. There is almost a certain hypocrisy, it seems to me, in talking about the privacy of individuals whose other rights are being so uniformly ignored, who are being so mistreated in every other respect. The privacy, it would seem to me, is about the last thing they are concerned about. First, one would think you'd want to take care of their much more fundamental human rights.
You would think so, although the one thing that hasn't changed in the years and years of apathy in public attitudes toward the mentally ill, punctuated by brief flurries of interest and concern and scandals, is this question of stigma. People who are bad are stigmatized in our society. People who are mad, that is to say mentally ill, are stigmatized in our society. People at Bridgewater could be said to be included in both populations, have the worst of both worlds. So it would seem that for that group specifically, the privacy question might be more keen than other things, since what happens within the walls may or may not have a lifetime effect, whereas the stigma of being identified as a recognizable inmate, even a past inmate of Bridgewater, may be lifelong, enduring, and even more destructive than some of the things that happened at Bridgewater. It's worth making an important distinction, though. Remember, the state did not pass the injunction against the showing of the film. Another branch of the government, the judiciary, in the Supreme Judicial Court of Massachusetts, was the one that issued the injunction. So it's not as if the state is closing off its own informant in this way. It's actually a separate arm of government.
Although it was...
I mean, that's a bit simplistic, because the state, through the Attorney General's office, brought the action on behalf of the Commissioner of Correction and the Superintendent at Bridgewater. Have to keep in mind that at no time in all the 5 cases involving the Titicut Follies did an inmate or a member of an inmate's family ever complain about the making or the showing of the film. It was clear at the time, and I think it's still clear, that the embarrassment is the state's. If the state had been genuinely concerned about these people, they wouldn't have kept them in the condition that they were kept in. There's one man who was kept naked in a cell for 17 years. If the state had a real interest at the time, in trying to do something to protect the inmates, they would have appointed a guardian in 1967 to represent the rights of the inmates.
Gentlemen, let me interrupt for just a second. We are going to have to take a commercial break. We have a couple of other guests who are going to join us to broaden the issue somewhat. We'll be back with both of you a little later in the broadcast. When we come back, however, we'll be joined by the state official who oversees Bridgewater Hospital, Philip Johnson, Massachusetts Secretary of Human Services, and by attorney Roderick McLeish, who represents patients at Bridgewater seeking better care and protection of their rights.
Two-thirds of the inmates are described as actively psychotic. 1/4 of them have killed at least one person.
Philip Johnston has been Massachusetts Secretary of Human Services since 1984 and is himself a former state hospital attendant. He's with us now in our Boston bureau. Roderick McLeish, who joins us from WGBH in Boston, has represented some 15 to 20 Bridgewater patients over the past 7 years and is now involved in a class action suit on the issue of putting patients in seclusion. Mr. Johnston, let me begin, if I may, with what seems to me to be a rather fundamental question. I can understand that there has to be a place that is secure, as a prison would be secure for the criminally insane, but by what tortured logic are people who are insane but have committed no criminal action put into that same place?
For years, Mr. Koppel, a debate has raged within Massachusetts regarding whether or not Bridgewater State Hospital should be a correctional facility or a hospital for the mentally ill. And historically, the decision had been, until very recently, that the institution should be run largely as a prison, because you're dealing here with probably the toughest, most violent, most aggressive, most dangerous population in the Commonwealth.
I'm not asking about them. I'm asking about people who have committed no criminal act. Why are they in there?
Well, these people are also very violent and very dangerous, but I announced several weeks ago that we are terminating that procedure. I think that, in fact, the 20% or so of patients who are at Bridgewater who have been sent there by the mental health system should not be in a criminal justice institution. Instead, they ought to be in mental health facilities. We now have the capital money and the operating money to house at least half of those patients in the mental health system, and we intend to begin doing that this fiscal year.
Mr. McLeish, to what degree is that going to relieve the problems that you represent? In other words, the patients whose problems you represent?
Well, I think it's going to relieve some of the problems, but with all due respect to the Secretary, his report does not state what he is stating here tonight. His report, as I read it, and as the Attorney General's office read it, still envisions that there could be a core of mentally ill individuals neither accused nor convicted of any crimes, who could remain at Bridgewater State Hospital. I don't think the report says what the Secretary is saying it says right now.
Well, let me be very clear about this, and I said this to the press the day of the press conference, and I think my staff has communicated this to you, Mr. McLeish, and to others who have been interested about it. The policy of our administration as of now is that civil commitments will not and should not be sent to Bridgewater State Hospital. We need to divert those people into the mental health system. It's inappropriate to be sending those people to Bridgewater, and we are now, as I said earlier, we've got the capital money and the operating money to initiate that new procedure very quickly.
Well, that's all very well, Secretary Johnson, but it's not going to solve Bridgewater's problems. I think you still have a facility which is dramatically understaffed compared to other state psychiatric facilities in the Commonwealth. And my basic question, I think, to you is, where have you been? There have been a number of deaths at this state hospital. Excuse me, I listened to you, and I'd like you to give the courtesy of listening to me. There have been a number of deaths at this state hospital of patients dying in seclusion rooms since November of 1986. There is evidence in the current court case that you had a meeting with Bridgewater staff in November of 1986 in which they told you that the seclusion law was being violated. Now, since that time, 3 patients have died in seclusion rooms where they were not being monitored in accordance with state law. And I'm reassured to hear tonight on national television your commitment to improving conditions at the facility. But my question for you and this administration is, where have you been in the past? This is not a situation...
I'm very proud of the record of our administration and of our Commonwealth during the past 3 or 4 years in the field of mental health. We have a record that's second to none. We now have, with the support of the governor and the legislature, an appropriation amounting to about $500 million. Let me repeat that, $500 million, which is being injected into our mental health system.
Well, as you know, your original proposal was much lower than that.
This is a result of a lot of work that's been done by many, many people across the Commonwealth, including relatives of mentally ill people who care very deeply about this issue.
May I just jump in with a quick question here, Secretary Johnson? I heard you say in the tape piece before that you were still investigating the cause of some of those suicides and the other unexplained deaths. May I ask you why it is that it has taken this long to find out what the cause is? One would think by now you would have an answer.
No, I don't think it's a question of determining what the cause was, although...
That was what you said.
The cause is clear.
No, what I think we need to, in every instance, do a very thorough investigation regarding the actions of staff who were on duty during each of the incidents. We've already completed the first major investigation on Mr. Roke's death.
May I ask you what has changed since those 5 deaths have occurred that would cause you to say with any assurance that no more will occur?
Well, a number of things. First, during the past several years, there has been a dramatic decrease.
No, I'm talking about the past few months, not the past several years. These deaths have all occurred since last November.
No, but certainly during the past year, there's been a decrease in the population, which we have pushed, so that where the population has gone from over 500 to around 400. There's been about a 15% increase in the staffing at the same time at Bridgewater. Thirdly, I announced an appropriation of $500,000 several weeks ago to bring the facility into compliance with the seclusion and restraint statute. There will be at least another 70, 75 staff who are being hired immediately in order to deal with what Mr. McLeish correctly terms a serious understaffing problem.
Let me stop you. Let me stop you on that point, if I may, because we have to take another break. When we come back, what I'd like to ask you, Mr. Johnson, is how you would feel about Mr. Wiseman's film being shown these days as a means to helping you accomplish what you say it is you want to accomplish. We'll continue our discussion in a moment.
My father is the greatest.
Follies, as you told us a moment ago, it was done, had to be done with the cooperation of the administration of the prison. That suggests that they were really interested in having the outside world know about conditions there. Why?
Well, that's why the superintendent and the commissioner gave me permission at the time. Particularly the superintendent in 1966 was felt that the legislature wasn't providing enough money and the public was apathetic, and he viewed the film, or a film, as a means of arousing public opinion to put pressure on the legislature. And it seems to me that that was a legitimate use of film, and still is a legitimate use of film.
As you listen to...
The alternative is you can't use this technology to look at the relationship between the individual and the state. And you're cutting people off from information.
I'm sorry, I keep interrupting you. As you listen to the discussion between Mr. Johnston and Mr. McLeish, is it deja vu, or do you have the sense that here, too, some a very dedicated public servant who is trying very hard to do the best he can with the resources at his disposal?
Well, primarily the latter. I mean, I think it's a very complex situation because you've got people. You must remember that many of the people at Bridgewater have either committed serious crimes or are thought to be very violent people. The issue is, how do you treat them? And it seems to me that obviously efforts are being made to treat them in a better fashion. The effort is to continue and improve the conditions. But people can't be interested in improving those conditions unless they know something about them. There's no reason why an elite group should be the only people allowed to see Titicut Follies, which is presently the situation. There's no reason why the general public can't see how its money is being spent in institutions
although you're
like Bridgewater.
you're making a slip again that people have made in the previous part of the program, which is to assume that Bridgewater today is what it was at the time you shot the film.
I make no
Mr. Wiseman.
I make no such assumption because I haven't been at Bridgewater in 20 years.
There have been 3 separate different administrations since then, so although people now in the program so far have seemed to slip as though we were dealing with exactly the same situations, it's a different situation.
No, it is.
I don't think the average person
I have
can tell
no
the difference.
idea. I have no idea what's at Bridgewater now because I haven't been there in 20 years.
I don't think,
I'm talking about conditions at Bridgewater 20 years ago, and I'm talking about the fact that there seems to have been some negligence involved in the death of a certain number of inmates in the last 6 months.
Let me just put to Mr. Johnston, Secretary Johnston, the question: if a camera crew were to come to you today, or if a director-producer of the stature of Mr. Wiseman were to come to you and say, "We'd like to get into that facility again today," would you let them?
I would, and I have, and as Mr. Wiseman knows, because we've discussed this, I happen to agree with him in general. I think that the film ought to be released. It had a great impact on me and on many people in this state 20 years ago when it was first made. It was a landmark film, had tremendous political impact, and I think it makes sense, assuming we can deal with these privacy issues, which I expect will be worked out in the next few days or weeks. I think the film ought to be shown to the public in Massachusetts.
All right, Mr. McLeish, you'll have the final word, and I'd like to have you sounded on the issue of privacy. You, after all, represent many of the inmates.
I think, Mr. Koppel, that this is a situation that's a very difficult one. You have competing rights, the right to privacy versus the public's right to know. The problem that you've had with Bridgewater is that historically the administration has not let people into this facility to make films. And my concern as an institutional lawyer is that the public's never really going to understand what the conditions in this facility are like. And I would respectfully state that they haven't fundamentally changed since Mr. Wiseman's film, unless there is some access given to this facility. Mr. Johnston, despite his words, has not allowed NBC and other networks into Bridgewater to date to make a film of this facility, of what's happening right now.
We are literally out of time. Mr. Johnston, I would like to ask you, Nightline would right now like to request permission to come in to Bridgewater. Will you let us in?
I will.
Thank you, sir.
We'll deal with Mr. Dreyfus and my staff, and we'll be glad to help you.
Very good, sir. We'll do that. That's our report for tonight. I'm Ted Koppel in Washington. For all of us here at ABC News, good night.
August Learner of the Month, Irving Johnson.
Now notice he dives way down to the bottom, trying to find a place to run down there, and he leaves Morgan high and dry on the outside.
And Rusty Wallace, even though he has some smoke coming from his car, apparently is not affecting the speed on his Pontiac.
The Fisher 3980 Sarah Holiday with United Airlines.
In a room like this, Michael McGinnis died.
It's a terrible thing that's happened.
One of 5 mentally ill patients to die at Bridgewater State Hospital this year.
I have no answer for this.
Now, News Center 5 goes beyond the barbed wire investigates conditions there and brings you face to face with the state's most dangerous criminals.
I'm in here because I killed the devil.
For the first time in 20 years, go inside Bridgewater. News Center 5 reports this week at 6.
Of all the cars, on all the roads, there's one unconventional choice. An Alfa Romeo with 4 doors. The Milano. Its extraordinary aluminum V6 muscles up to 183 horsepower, and its provocative style will take you where you've never been before. The Alfa Romeo Milano, driven to be different.
A look inside Polaroid, Monday at 7:30.
News Center 5 is closed caption for the hearing impaired, with funding provided by Honeywell Bull Computers.
Bridgewater State Hospital, home for the criminally insane, will take you inside. Congresswoman Pat Schroeder bids a tearful farewell to her presidential bid, and Mrs. William Casey insists her husband made no deathbed confession.
Now, the news of New England and the world, live from News Center 5 at 6.
21 years ago, the documentary film Titticut's Follies captured these horrifying scenes at Bridgewater State Hospital. The public never saw this portrait of our state's most disturbed and criminally insane residents. The court said the film was too explosive and potentially damaging. Bridgewater's doors slammed shut to all public inspection. They are reopened for the first time tonight. Good evening, I'm Chet Curtis.
And I'm Natalie Jacobson. For the first time since the making of Titticut Follies 2 decades ago, a television news crew has been allowed inside Bridgewater.
Tonight, News Center 5 begins a week-long exclusive look inside the state facility for the most dangerous and severely mentally ill men in Massachusetts.
It is an institution swirling in controversy. 5 patients have died at Bridgewater under questionable circumstances this year. It is an institution with complex problems, handling a level of mental illness that is profoundly disturbing. We see it tonight as News Center 5's Ron Allen takes us inside Bridgewater.
Watching the time.
I want to get out of here so bad I can't see straight. I have been locked up many times for being right.
I'm head of the biggest corporation in the whole universe.
Why did I get picked to go nuts? Well, a lot of times I think, well, God's punishing me or something. Yeah, I guess that's what a lot of people think, too.
Bridgewater State Hospital, its very name has become synonymous with insanity. Violent patients from mental hospitals, deranged inmates from state prisons. No one else can figure out how to treat them. That's why they're here, confined to a volatile, frightening environment.
The thing that all patients have in common here is their violence or their potential for violence.
These men are dangerous, disturbed, delusional. 1 in 4 has taken a human life.
Did I kill my grandmother? Yeah, I killed my grandmother. I thought that was the only thing I could do at the time. I was suffering from delusions.
The minimum yardage falls, all inmates return to your units for account. The minimum yardage falls.
Bridgewater historically has been in the position of being the place where people are sent to be forgotten and sent to be warehoused and sent to be out of the public view and in some sense to be the place where you can't hear them screaming.
I'm in here because I killed the devil, Francis Leslie Wood. And I reincarnated him as a black female out of St. Joe, Missouri. He's about 11 years old. That's what happens when people die. I reincarnate them, you know. I do everything, you know. I invented the double-edged razor. I invented the game Battleship.
Do you know that?
I'm almighty and all-powerful, and I'm all good, you know.
Irrational, psychotic, the temptation is to dismiss them, to see them as unworthy of concern. But to do so is to miss the point.
Any one of our family members could wind up here. I had my auto mechanic pass through here. Not the people you expect, you know, the people that, it's not somebody that's some anonymous face. It's our neighbors who come here.
You are coming here today from where?
Oh, West Boylston. I work at the county jail.
Westboro?
No, not Westboro.
No, what unit?
West Boylston.
West Boylston?
County jail.
Okay. And are there any voices that you're hearing that are bothering you?
No.
Something that is bothering you?
Are you ready for this? I'm reading the Bible every night by myself, right? And someone's saying, don't read that. Burn that Bible. It's me next door, you fool. With a bang on the wall in the jail cell.
David.
In the jail cell.
David, your voice is saying that?
In the jail cell next to me. He goes, shut up.
Patients who hear voices, this severe mental illness creates a different world here at Bridgewater. 70% of these patients habitually try to solve their problems with suicide. 4-point restraint anchors the most troubled.
At any given moment there, they may decide to do something to themselves. We've had guys that rip their eyeballs out of their head, bang their heads on the wall and stuff like that. He may get violent to a point that he'll attack the nurses, the doctors, or any member of the staff that's here, or even the officers.
For 21 years, the state of Massachusetts had kept this hospital closed to public view. But the deaths of 5 patients this year forced an open examination of conditions here. The first public examination since the controversial documentary, Titicut Follies. The blatantly abusive mistreatment of patients depicted then no longer exists. But once again, the word neglect echoes through here.
And it hurts. I mean, it literally wants to make you cry. And I see people that commit suicide, and I see people that just let go and not care anymore. It makes you feel inside, you know, this is not the way it should be.
You'll hear more from Jimmy Slavin tomorrow night. Like most patients at Bridgewater, he receives very little treatment for his severe mental illness. The men at Bridgewater have been sent there for treatment, not for punishment. The institution is supposed to be a state hospital, not a prison, but it doesn't even meet the minimum standards of mental health hospitals. State officials have developed a plan to increase staff and funding at Bridgewater. They have now admitted that the facility has been mismanaged for many years. But all that is still in the planning stages, and patients and staff have yet to see the planned improvements. Natalie?
How is it we were allowed in there with our cameras? We mentioned earlier it was over 20 years since any news crew or any public scrutiny. Why now and why us?
Producer Neil Ungerleider and myself negotiated with the Corrections Department for several weeks, and we agreed not to identify patients and staff unless we had their permission. That's why some of the faces were obscured in the pieces you saw. The staff was very concerned about letting the public know about what's going on in the institution. 5 patients had died, and they feel that those deaths could have been prevented if Bridgewater had been given the funds that have been asked for many, many years. It's a system of neglect, and the staff felt that problem should be made known to the public.
It had to be difficult. I know you were in there, what, 8, 10 days shooting?
We were in there for quite some time. We were given basically unlimited access. A guard escorted, a corrections officer escorted us around. There were times when it was very tense because of the level of mental illness. People are irrational. We were constantly warned to be on our guard, and we were. And it was at times very disturbing.
And tomorrow?
Tomorrow we discuss treatment, medical treatment, or I should say the lack of treatment there. A lot of men are not receiving the kind of care that many experts think they should be, and a lot of people are suffering, and we'll tell some of those stories tomorrow night.
All right, Ron, thank you.
Thank you.
Difficult assignment and good job.
The Dukakis for President campaign finds itself tonight in the glare of negative national spotlight. Time magazine is reporting in this week's edition that somebody connected to the Dukakis campaign contributed to the downfall of rival
Center 5 was recently granted extensive access to that facility.
The deaths of 5 patients at Bridgewater this year have raised very serious questions about how the patients are treated there. Many members of the staff complain their pleas for more money and resources from the state have fallen on deaf ears.
And that is why News Center 5 was allowed inside Bridgewater to interview patients and staff about conditions there. Tonight, News Center 5's Ron Allen takes a close look at how much medical care Bridgewater's severely disturbed patients actually receive.
Hey, Slave, smile!
Nothing to smile at.
Jimmy Slavin has little to smile about. He has been placed in the care of the state of Massachusetts, and the state has very little to offer him.
You know, it sounds crazy, but I stare at the sun, and my retinas are almost gone because I miss who I lost.
Jimmy Slavin stares at the sun because 2 years ago, the sound of his baby's crying snapped Slavin's mind. He blacked out and killed his infant son by dropping him from the top floor of an apartment building. Now Slavin tries to blind himself.
I might lose my total eyesight in November. You know, so I'm a little scared about it because I know I'm not going to see anymore. But I feel better about it because I can't hurt anymore. If I can't see, I can't hurt anybody.
The state sent him to Bridgewater, but he has not received very much care. So Jimmy Slavin has decided to take care of his problems his own way.
One way or another, I'll find a way to take my life. And if these people can't stop me from hurting the people I love and care about, then I don't want to be around. Somebody's got to do something. If they can't, I have to.
No one at Bridgewater has the time to stop Slavin from staring at the sun. He sees a therapist but once a week, and his doctors agree that's not enough to solve his problems. In an institution that's underfunded, understaffed, and admittedly mismanaged by the state, Jimmy Slavin's story is sadly typical.
We basically put Band-Aids on things that could probably need to be sutured. You know, we try and keep things from building into overwhelming problems, but we need a lot more staff here.
And that lack of staff at Bridgewater became a public scandal after 5 patients died here this year. 3 of those men committed suicide in rooms where they were supposed to be under constant surveillance.
It's a terrible thing that's happened. It's the worst thing that's happened. The fact that people have managed to commit suicide while we've been trying to take care of them, I think, is an awful thing.
It was here, in this room, that 27-year-old Michael McGinnis tied a sheet to the ceiling vent, wrapped it around his neck, and hanged himself.
It hits hard and it hits home. To have suicides happening around you has to make you question what's going on.
Bridgewater has only a fraction of the staff at comparable facilities around the country. At times, only 2 nurses are on duty for all of Bridgewater's 430 patients. Television substitutes for organized programs or therapy sessions. Men desperately in need of help languish in day rooms or outside in the yard, tormented by the demon-like forces that haunt their lives.
Those are the people that I worry about. Those are the people that I need to be reaching out to.
Do you have the time to reach out to them?
Not all of them, no.
Medication!
This is the most consistent form of therapy at Bridgewater, the thousands of pills dispensed every day.
When I'm taking my medication, I'm consistent. I'm not dangerous to other people. I don't have a criminal history or nothing, and I don't harm myself.
My medication's more or less my therapy. It, like I said, it slows me down. Without it, I go 100 miles an hour. But that's about the only thing that they're doing good here for me. It's just the medication. Other than that, this place is garbage.
Most patients have no scheduled treatment plans, a requirement at any accredited mental hospital. But Bridgewater is part of a prison system. It is not an accredited hospital.
I've been here 8 months, and I didn't get a treatment plan until my uncle wrote to the judge, June 2nd, 1987. So all that time, I spent drinking coffee and generally doing nothing all day, you know.
The state spends just half on its patients at Bridgewater of what it spends for those at its mental hospitals. And many here believe that Bridgewater has always been seen by the state as a human warehouse, a place where people are sent to be forgotten.
They want a place to put people that nobody else wants, that nobody else can handle, whether they're suicidal or violent or just unwanted, undesirable. But then you don't want to spend the money for it either. They don't want to provide the support, the staff, what it costs to take care of people.
The Dukakis administration is currently deciding how much money to spend to improve conditions at Bridgewater. Human Services Secretary Philip Johnston announced a far-reaching plan last August, but a Superior Court judge and a House Legislative Committee have already rejected the initial phase of the plan as woefully inadequate. Johnston has since revised his plan, but there still seems to be a lot of disagreement about how much money the Dukakis administration is willing to spend at Bridgewater. Matt?
How does Bridgewater compare, Ron, with other facilities in the country like this?
Well, other facilities in other states have more money, they have more staff. They put these same people into fully accredited mental health hospitals where there is a 1-to-1 patient-staff ratio. At Bridgewater, the patient-staff ratio is 12-to-1, and a lot of people don't get the kind of care that some people believe they should be getting.
So then the attitude from the state must be different in those other states.
It is. It's a question in Massachusetts of historical neglect. The problems of Bridgewater can be traced back a long period of time, and it's now the task of the Dukakis administration to offer its solution, and that's what a lot of people are looking for to see what they're going to do.
Okay, and tomorrow?
Tomorrow night we focus on Bridgewater's use of seclusion cells. It's a very highly controversial practice, which is essentially solitary confinement. It's where they put the most dangerous, the most suicidal people. But it's also a practice that many other states don't use. It's rarely used, and the state of Rhode Island has basically formally done away with the practice. At Bridgewater, they use it quite a bit.
All right, Ron, thank you.
Thank you.
And a development to report to you tonight on a story directly connected with these problems at Bridgewater State Hospital. It appears that Corrections Commissioner Michael Fair will not be replaced, as had been reported last week. A news leak from the Department of Health and Human Services had it that Fair would be fired, the apparent fall guy for the state's embarrassment over the problems at Bridgewater. Well, tonight, the Dukakis administration says that is not the case. Sources close to the situation say Fair's job is apparently safe, at least through the end of this year.
Just ahead on News Center 5 at 6.
Prices are rising. The price of a new Plymouth Reliant.
Tonight we continue our exclusive investigation of conditions inside Bridgewater State Hospital. This series of reports is the first comprehensive look at that troubled facility in 20 years.
Tonight, we examine several highly controversial practices at that institution, practices that some patients claim are humiliating and degrading. Patients even have sued the state, claiming their rights have been violated.
Tonight, News Center 5's Ron Allen takes us inside Bridgewater for a look at some standard policies that have been eliminated in other states.
Bridgewater's admissions unit. Orientation begins. Another new patient has arrived, shackled in chains. Inmates from state prisons, suspects sent by courts for psychiatric examination, mental patients from state hospitals who've committed no crimes at all.
Okay, Eddie, once he gets the waist chain off, I want you to strip down, keep your hands out of your pockets. Okay, Eddie, strip right down.
All of them are strip-searched routinely and without privacy in this hallway. No accredited mental hospital strip searches its patients in a public place.
You can't imagine how a person feels. It's just degrading, it's humiliating, and you wonder why you're in there.
Many of the people who come in here are in fact suicidal. I'm not doing it to be counterproductive to their treatment. I'm doing it so that they cannot harm themselves.
Okay, turn around, see the bottoms of your feet, one at a time. The other one. Okay, bend over, spread the cheeks of your ass with your hands. Okay, fellas.
They do not tell you anything. They just simply, once they strip search you, you're thrown in the cell, and that's it. I just lost my complete sense of dignity.
Many cells have a medieval aura about them. Cold, hard floors, a hole for a toilet. Officers must flush it from outside. The foul stench of human excrement fills the air.
Don't you know I'm a reader?
Until recently, many patients remained stripped naked in their cells for several hours or longer. It was an institutional practice dating back more than 20 years, and a practice Bridgewater patients had sued the state to stop.
I don't think you need to be a psychiatrist to imagine how terrifying it must be to come to a facility like Bridgewater in the first place. But to be stripped naked or down to your underwear and placed in a seclusion room, I think is just a barbaric practice that went out in the dark ages.
Bridgewater's administrators had always claimed it was done to protect possibly suicidal patients from themselves. But a new superintendent has brought a different philosophy to Bridgewater, and he says holding newly admitted patients naked is no longer standard practice. But practices regarding other patients put in these seclusion cells, actually solitary confinement, remain controversial. By law, seclusion cells are to be used only for patients so self-destructive or violent that even a plastic spoon in their possession can be lethal.
Tom, you see spoon. You see spoon.
And officers must keep careful watch to make sure the patients are still alive.
Just go look for little things. If he's moving while he's sleeping, you know. If his eyelids move, he's alive. Signs of life, you know.
This solitary confinement is a practice rarely used by similar facilities in other states, and now formally done away with in Rhode Island. But Bridgewater's administrators still defend it.
When we place somebody in seclusion, it is because they need to be in seclusion, because they can't be interacting with the population or with staff because they are in an emergency situation.
Arthur, what's it like in there?
It's loud. We're not allowed to smoke. All we get is our food. That's it. And if you start yelling that you're being disrespected and treated bad, they shut off the water. They try to make this out to be a mental institution. This is far from a mental institution. This is a prison, pure, plain, and simple.
A superior court has reviewed Bridgewater's use of seclusion and found the safety of patients has been jeopardized by insufficient staff. The law requires checks by a doctor every 3 hours, but relatives of patients claim their loved ones have been in seclusion unmonitored much longer than that.
In the seclusion and restraint rooms for 24 hours at a time, unguarded, and vomit and blood in there and everything. That's the way we treat our mentally ill people.
A Superior Court judge has ordered the state to improve its treatment of patients placed in seclusion at Bridgewater. During the course of those proceedings, state officials conceded the institution is so understaffed that laws requiring careful monitoring of patients are often violated. Bridgewater's new superintendent is currently designing a completely different admissions process. It will be moved to a different building. He is convinced that new patients should be oriented to the facility in a very different manner.
Chet? Ron, just to reiterate a point you made in the piece, patients come to Bridgewater for different reasons, and yet they're all treated the same. Is that correct?
That's correct. Some of them are dangerous criminals, prison inmates who are also mentally ill, but about 1/3 of the patients at Bridgewater have never been convicted of a crime, never been even charged with a crime. And advocates for the mentally ill are adamant about saying that those patients should never be sent to such a dangerous facility for treatment.
Can you preview part 4 for us?
Tomorrow night we're going to focus in on the staff, the people who work there, and discuss some of the frustrations that they feel working in an understaffed and underfunded institution.
Right, Ron, thank you. We'll look forward to that one.
All right, and just ahead, some more big names cross the NFL picket lines.
And a Patriots veteran offers his candid thoughts on the strike. Sports with Mike Lynch, next.
From our...
In a room like this, Michael McGinnis died.
It's a terrible thing that's happened.
One of 5 mentally ill patients to die at Bridgewater State Hospital this year.
I have no answer for this.
Now, News Center 5 goes beyond the barbed wire, investigates conditions there, and brings you face to face with the state's most dangerous criminals.
I'm in here because I killed the devil.
For the first time in 20 years, go inside Bridgewater. News Center 5 reports this week at 6.
Ford Bronco, Chevy Blazer, look out. Cheap dealing days are here.
Tonight we continue our exclusive investigation of conditions inside Bridgewater State Hospital. News Center 5 recently spent a week at that troubled facility interviewing patients and staff. For the first time such access has been granted to the media in 20 years.
Many of the Bridgewater patients have never been convicted of a crime, but the institution does have custody of criminals who have committed some of the most unspeakable crimes in the state's history.
Bridgewater staff must deal with that constant danger while they try to take care of these men. And that's the issue that News Center 5's Ron Allen explores tonight as we take you inside Bridgewater.
I'm not a danger to people in here because people here have never done nothing to me.
The man wielding the sharp knife in the Bridgewater kitchen says he's killed more than 24 people, maybe more. No one is sure just how many.
How many others? There were several. They estimate 30. People have died as a result of my actions.
He is the Commonwealth's most notorious serial killer, Kenneth Harrison. During a rampage of killing in the 1960s, his victims included a 6-year-old girl and a 9-year-old boy.
People who had bothered me or bothered my mother, I felt they had to seek revenge and get even with them one way or another.
The reason that he was doing all this stuff was that he was getting up enough nerve to kill his sister and her 5 children. He was like testing himself. That's the reason he gave me, anyhow.
Police arrested Harrison before he killed his family. Doctors say he will never be released from Bridgewater. He is a homicidal maniac, a disease with no known cure. Name any heinous criminal in Massachusetts, and he's probably been sent here. Locked steel doors secure every entrance. Barbed wire fences surround the perimeter. A sentry keeps watch from the tower. But once inside, Bridgewater is virtually an open campus where the staff meets these violent, irrational men one-on-one.
And most people on the street don't appreciate problems that you have to take. People say, oh, you got it made, you carry guns, you carry clubs, you carry this, you carry nothing.
On average, 1 or 2 of these unarmed officers are the victims of patient assaults each day. A dozen are out each week, recovering from injuries.
We are open to sucker punching, being taken hostage, all kinds of things at any time. You see the freedom they have in here. They could plan anything they wanted to isolate 1 or 2 or 3 officers.
The severely disturbed patients outnumber them 10-1, and the officers have little specific training to deal with the mental illness that surrounds them.
10 of these guys got out and come back and broke out the rest. And I know guys that could probably get Huey helicopter. You got a lot of vets in here, a lot of Vietnam vets in here, a lot of them, and I'm one of them. And these are dangerous guys.
You're always aware of your environment. There's a hypervigilance that is normal for walking through the yard, to always be aware of your surroundings. You don't know, it's unpredictable.
And that level of danger has always been heightened because the staff has been expected to provide treatment for these men without the money needed to do the job. Throughout its 100-year history, Bridgewater's staff has been able to offer only minimal care. And until 5 patients died here this year, pleas for help went largely unanswered.
Who do you fault for that?
I think faulting anyone is really counterproductive. I think there are resource decisions that I know have been made over the course of years that perhaps I wouldn't have made, but they're decisions that are made in the real world of government.
Official neglect. For years, state government had recognized the deficiencies at Bridgewater, but chose not to act.
Kind of like over a period of time, the administrators, not so much the correctional officers, but the administrators just developed an indifference and an insensitivity to the needs of these patients.
Now, to meet even the minimum standards of mental health hospitals, Bridgewater must double its budget and triple its staff, and a new facility may even be needed. For in this badly overcrowded institution, doctors are forced to see patients in converted laundry rooms.
It takes a lot of hope to come and work here every day. Here your chief enemy is to be overwhelmed by a sense of hopelessness.
That sense of hopelessness is slowly being replaced by a cautious optimism because the staff has been hearing a lot about plans to increase funding for the institution. We'll have more on the Dukakis administration's plans for Bridgewater tomorrow night. One other note. Last night we told you about Bridgewater's controversial use of solitary confinement, seclusion. An appeals court judge said today that the state is making a good faith effort to improve the treatment of patients in seclusion. That question has been the focus of a very bitter lawsuit for quite some time.
Ron, what about this fella, Ken Harrison, that you showed us at the beginning of the piece, the serial killer? Why was he allowed to be working in the kitchen with a knife?
A lot of people have asked that question. We asked the question, especially before we photographed him in the kitchen. The answer that we're given is that Mr. Harrison has been at Bridgewater for 18 years, and the institution has essentially stabilized his illness. As he said, he is not a danger to people there. He's only a danger to people who he perceives as a threat to his family, to his mother. The staff feels that that is not a dangerous situation for him to be in. At one time, he was even the prison barber. But if he were released from Bridgewater, he could be a potential danger to some people, so Mr. Harrison will never be released from Bridgewater State Hospital.
I think a lot of people forgot about the haircuts for a while there.
Perhaps so.
All right, Ron, we'll check back with you tomorrow night. Good series.
Thank you, Nat.
The station has promised sweeping improvements as we again take you inside Bridgewater.
They call this a state hospital, a place for the treatment of the mentally ill. But the name of the institution hides the truth. Bridgewater State Hospital is really a prison.
It's prison. It's run by a correctional agency. All the patients there wear blues. Blue clothes, dungaree clothes, stenciled on the back is Bridgewater State Hospital. Mental patients don't do that.
1/3 of the patients at Bridgewater have never been convicted of a crime. Jerry Mariano is a case in point. His illness has kept him at state hospitals most of his life.
I don't have a criminal history or nothing, and I don't harm myself. You know, I'm not like that, but sometimes I've been here so long, I don't know if they think I like it here, but I would like to go to Worcester State Hospital.
But this prison-like setting is all the state currently has for patients like Jerry, who could not be handled in a mental hospital. He has frequently attacked staff by trying to poke their eyes out.
What goes on in my mind before they claim I attacked them? Ignoring me, like I don't exist, you know, like they can, like I don't have no credibility when I am a high school graduate and everything.
Bridgewater makes no distinction between civilly committed mental patients like Jerry and deranged prison inmates who have also been sent here for treatment. They live side by side. It's a practice almost unheard of elsewhere in the country.
The only thing I'm concerned for my son and for those kids who are there is their safety. I mean, whatever mind they have left in that place, if they have any little bit of mind left, it surely has to be gone from what they've been through in that place.
3 of the 5 patients who died at Bridgewater this year had committed no crime. The state now concedes that such patients do not belong here.
This is a facility which is run by the Corrections Department. People who are civilly committed should be elsewhere.
While patients come to Bridgewater for different reasons, almost all share one thing: they will leave. At some point, a doctor will determine that the treatment needs of even the most dangerous patient have been met.
How much do you worry about that?
A lot. And you worry about it more if you feel you don't have adequate staff, where you feel that every time you make that decision, you're not doing it with all of the information that you need. You worry a lot about that.
Most patients stay at Bridgewater less than 3 years. They're released back to prisons or to mental health hospitals. Almost no one stays at Bridgewater forever.
They'll be coming home. And they'll be living next door to you and in our neighborhoods and traveling our streets, and that's what's important.
Bridgewater's importance has now been realized by the Dukakis administration. 5 patient deaths this year have made it impossible to ignore. The governor himself attended a recent meeting on Bridgewater's future. Officials admit fundamental changes are needed to correct years of mismanagement and neglect.
Bridgewater State Hospital has always been run as a prison, not as a mental health facility. That was the wrong public policy because they are mentally ill. In addition to being dangerous, it is very important that we have clinical services attached to that hospital as well.
But disagreement exists about how much to spend. A Dukakis administration plan will increase Bridgewater's budget by 50% and add more than 100 new clinical positions. But Bridgewater's staff says even more will be necessary to provide an appropriate level of care. Many hope the administration won't settle for an inexpensive, ineffective solution. While the debate goes on, life goes on inside Bridgewater. Bridgewater's problems are very complex, and the solutions require more than just money and staff. For example, civilly committed patients who've committed no crimes can't be moved immediately because there is no place to put them. The state is trying to build those facilities. Right now, there are more staff for Bridgewater in training, but the problems won't be solved overnight. There's another point that we need to clarify. Earlier this week, we reported on the treatment needs of patient Jimmy Slavin. Because of some incorrect information that we were given, we incorrectly reported the cause of Slavin's son's death. That infant died of asphyxiation. Slavin pleaded guilty in the case.
Ron, how committed is the Dukakis administration to finally doing something about Bridgewater, and what does the campaign for the presidency have to do with it, if anything?
Well, publicly, they're not saying there's an association, but privately, a lot of aides admit that the campaign for the White House has a lot to do with all of this. The administration has been very anxious to put its best foot forward on the Bridgewater issue, and that is one reason why we heard a lot of discussion about the apparent dismissal, but non-dismissal of Commissioner Fair last week. Also, I should point out that the policy changes that you hear Secretary Johnston talking about have only happened in the past few months because of court pressure, because of media scrutiny, and because of the patient deaths that have happened there earlier this year. You're also probably going to see a lot more national coverage of this story in the media. There's a lot of national interest, and organizations such as ABC News Nightline and 60 Minutes are planning programs on Bridgewater, and we will, of course, have more on the story as well.
Well, Ron, this was a remarkable series, and you and Neil Ungerleider and photographer
Peter Sinatra and Jane Raphael and a few other folks, too.
You should be very satisfied.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you, Ron. A Superior Court judge.
Filmmakers. Wiseman is a master of cinema verite, a kind of documentary filmmaking which is unscripted and unrehearsed. Over the last 25 years, he has perfected the form in his portraits of American institutions and the people who inhabit them, from a high school to a model agency, from a welfare office to a hospital. Titicut Follies is one of his most powerful documentaries. Wiseman made it from footage shot over 29 days at Bridgewater, a Massachusetts state prison for the criminally insane. The film was shocking in its honesty and contained many scenes where the inmates were nude or being abused verbally by the guards. It was immediately banned from public screenings by a judge of the Massachusetts Superior Court. He claimed that it was obscene and that the privacy rights of the inmates had been violated. Wiseman believes his film was banned because it revealed the inhumane conditions of a state-run institution, and elected officials didn't want it shown. In Titicut Follies, Wiseman's camera captures the relentless routine of Bridgewater, and Wiseman is unflinching in his look at the harshness of life there. The film is named after the yearly entertainment put on by the inmates and guards. Scenes from the song and dance routine open and close the film and make the grim atmosphere, the daily indignities, and the hopelessness of life at Bridgewater all the more poignant. Wiseman has always believed that the showing of Titicut Follies might make a difference in the conditions at Bridgewater. He never gave up fighting to have the ban lifted, and in 1991, 25 years, 24 films, and several court cases later, Wiseman won back the right to show the film publicly. But even if conditions do improve at Bridgewater, Wiseman knows that it is hardly a unique situation. As he said in 1967, places like it exist all over the world. Titicut Follies is adult viewing. It is a film you shouldn't miss and won't easily forget. I'm Charlie Rose. Thank you for joining us.